Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Wednesday, November 1st, 2023. Today we'll recap game number 4 of the World Series, look ahead to game 5. We have college football to go over, and we'll look ahead to the college football for tonight, as well as the NBA and the NHL. We have a golf tournament to preview and pick. We will preview tonight's episode of Survivor. We have college football playoff rankings for the first time all year. We'll look at them, news and notes, and best bet. World Series is where we'll kick it off. Game 4, it was a game that looked like it was going to be a blowout, and then the final score tells you it wasn't, as the Rangers beat the Diamondbacks by 11-7 to take a 3-1 series lead. Andrew Heaney to win, Joe Mantiply the loss. The Rangers just went up 10-0 after 3 innings after a home run by Marcus Semien to make it 10-0. And then after the 8th inning, it was 11-1. Or after the top of the 8th, it was 11-1, and then the D-backs put up a 5 spot. Like the rest of the way. They put up a 5 spot. Or a 4th spot in the 8th inning. Sack fly Tommy Pham, and then a 3-run homer by Yuli Gurriel. And then bottom of the 9th, 2-run single by Gabe Moreno made it 11-7. So that was a deceiving 11-7 score, as the Rangers are a win away from their first World Series in franchise history. And then tonight, 8 o'clock on Fox, Rangers D-backs. Nathan Eovaldi, Zach Gallen. No doubt about it, Arizona goes with their ace, and then Texas goes with one of their best guys in Nathan Eovaldi. The D-backs are slight favorites at -116. The Rangers are -102 over under 8.5, -1 each way. Rangers -1.5 is +158. D-backs +1.5 is -194. I'm going with the under. I may bet on the D-backs to hedge my Rangers in 5 at +610 that I got a couple of days ago. But the bet I'm going to give out and recommend for you guys for tonight's game is the under. I think it's a low-scoring game. Both aces. Either team can win. So I think the safest bet for the game tonight is the under. So we'll see with that. Okay. Now I'll move on to college football. Made 2 Michigan games last night and made 2 more tonight. As Central Michigan beats Northern Illinois 37-31. I told you guys that Central was going to win that game. I told you guys, and I thought about it for best bet too. And Toledo beat Buffalo 31-13. So Toledo won and no, they did not cover the number, as they were giving 14.5. Oh wait, they did cover. Never mind. For some reason, I thought the line was higher than that. All right, 7 o'clock ESPN2 tonight. Ball State and Bowling Green. I have Bowling Green by 10, 12-46 in the top 5th. And we have 5.5 and 39.5. That's a low total. Whew, baby. So I have a 7-point edge, or almost 7 on the over, and 4.5 on Bowling Green. So I'm going to go with the over. And on ESPN, you have Kent State Akron. What a terrible game. 2-14 combined. I project Akron by 8, total 45 and 3/20, and it's 4.5 and 37.5. Another over. That's just ridiculously low. Both of these defenses stink. I understand the offenses can't score a lot, but I always am the one to believe the 2 bad defenses equals an over. If it's 2 horrific teams, you always take the over in college, but if it's the NFL, you usually trend towards the under. All right. Now we'll move on to the NBA. We will recap the games from yesterday and look ahead to tonight's slate. Knicks over the Cavs, 109-91. No Darius Garland or Jared Allen in that game, but Donovan Mitchell played. Spurs come back and beat the Suns 115-114 in what was an epic finish in that one. And the Clippers over the Magic 118-102. The Clippers continue to be the front runners team. Alrighty. Tonight's games. 7 o'clock. Blazers Pistons. I have Pistons by 6 till 2:14 and 4/5. And we have 4 and 213.5. I'm going to lay the 4 at the Pistons. Bucks Raptors, I have Bucks by 9 total 219 and 3/20, and it's 5 and 224.5. I like the under. That's the high total. 7:30 Wizards Hawks. I have the Hawks by 14.5 total 237 and 4/5. And it's 7.5 and 238.5. I love Atlanta minus the points. The Wizards are terrible. Pacers Celtics, that's an interesting one. I have the Celtics by 13.5 total 232 and 3/20, and it is 11.5 and 231.5. I'm going to lay the 11.5 with the Boston Celtics. Nets Heat. Potentially no Jimmy Butler. I have the Heat by 5 total 229 and 2/5, and it is 6 and 222.5. I love the over in that game. Cavs Knicks, so literally the game we saw last night, except at the Garden. I have Knicks by a whopping 8.5 with the Cavs injuries total 214 and 19/20, and it is 6.5 and 211.5. I'm going to take the over again. On ESPN tonight, Pelicans Thunder. I have Thunder by 8 till 217 and 11/20, and it's 3.5 and 225.5. That's a difficult one, but I like the under. 8 o'clock Hornets Rockets. I have the Rockets by 1 till 223.5, and it is 2 and 223. That's the closest one I've had. Slight Charlotte, and I mean slight. Nuggets Timberwolves. I have Nuggets by 5 total 213 and 13/20. And it's 3.5 and 223.5. Love the under. Love it. 8:30 Bulls Mavericks. I have the Mavs by 11 total 229 and 4/5. And it's 5 and 225.5. I don't love the pick, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to lay the 5 at the Mavericks. 9 o'clock Grizzlies Jazz. I have Jazz by a half. Jazz by 4.5. Total 225 and 13/20. And the Jazz are giving 3, total 227.5. I'm going to do slight under. 10 o'clock Kings Warriors. I have Warriors by 10, total 233 and 3/10 without De'Aaron Fox. And it's 7 and 233.5. I'm going to lay the 7 with Golden State. And last but not least on ESPN, Clippers Lakers. I do not expect to see James Harden in this game. So maybe he does play. But I have Lakers 4.5 till 223 and 2/5. But if Harden plays, then that goes to 2.5. It's 5 and 225.5. I like the under in that game. Now I'll move on to the NHL. We will recap the games from tonight and look ahead to tomorrow's slate, which is a 4-deep. Kings over Maple Leafs 4-1, impressive for the Kings. And the Canucks over the Predators 5-2. I thought that was an under game. I was wrong. All right, 7 o'clock TNT, Sabres Flyers. Sabres can get the 500 with the win. Flyers can get back over 500 with the win and get to 10 points on the season. John Torrella's done a nice job so far. Sabres are favored -115. Flyers are -104 over under 6.5. Overs -138. Unders +112. Sabres -1.5 is +195. Flyers +1.5 is -240. I'm going to lay it the money line with the Sabres -115. I just think they're better. 8:30 Stars Flames. The Stars are -130. The Flames are +108. Over under 5.5. Overs -130. Unders +106. Stars -1.5 is +188. Flames +1.5 is -230. I like the under. Don't feel good about it, though. That's an oddinger bet. 9:30 of Blues Avs. Awful game. But the Blues are 3-3-1 low-key. They're not terrible yet. The Avs are -230. The Blues are +188. Over under 6.5. Overs -102. Unders -120. Blues +1.5 is -126. Avs -1.5 is +105. I like the over. And last one, at least 10 o'clock, Coyotes Ducks. Coyotes -120. Ducks even money. Over under 6.5. -2 each way. Coyotes -1.5 is +190. Ducks +1.5 is -235. I gotta fade the Coyotes again. There's a major letdown coming after scoring 8 against the Blackhawks. Give me the Ducks even money to beat the Coyotes. The Coyotes shouldn't be a real favorite against anybody. Alrighty. Now we'll move on to golf. The tournament coming up this weekend is the WWT Championship from El Cardinal at Diamante. Fun fact that this was Tiger's first course. So that's very interesting. So it's in California. It looks like, no, that doesn't make sense. It's in San Lucas. Okay. So notable tee times 8:25. Max McGreevy, Jonathan Bird, Ryan Palmer, CAU, Chasen Hadley, 8:36. Patton Gazier, Tyson Alexander, Harry Hall, Austin Smotherman, Harrison Endicott, Davis Lipsky, 8:47. Justin Sue, MJ Daffé, Stefan Yeager, Harry Higgs, Paul Haley, Dylan Fratelli, 8:58. C. Thiglia, Stuart St. Lucas, Christian Kirk, Davis Riley, Matt Kuchar. Actually, Davis Riley's 9:09 with Nicholas Echeverria, Evan Van Rooyen, Joaquin Herman, Brandon Gay, and Cam Young. 9:20. Lucas Servert, Adam Svensson, Keith Mitchell, Branson Ecker, Martin Laird, Ken Goulet. 9:31. Doc Redmond, Ben Griffins, B.U. Hostler, Matt McNeely, Scott Piercy, and Michael Kim. 9:42. Camilo Vegas, Will Gordon, Austin Eckert, Ryan Award, Jimmy Walker, Brendan Wu. 9:53. Callum Tarrant, Bryce Garnett, Jason Dever, Kevin Tway, Ryan Moore, James Hahn. 10:04. Kevin Roy, Matthias Schmid, Trevor Werblow. 10:15. Nobody of note. 1:10. Henrik Norlander, Davis Thompson, Matthias Schwab, Austin Cook, Cam Piercy, and Adam Putnam. 1:21. Ben Taylor, Carson Young, Nate Lashley, Brian Stewart, Ben Martin, Peter Malnati. 1:32. Mark Hubbard, Doug Gim, Grayson Sieg, Thomas Dietrich, Nate Watney. 1:43. J.J. Spawn, Ryan Brem, Taylor Montgomery, Lucas Griffin, Mackenzie Hughes, Robert Streb. 1:54. Richie Wierenski, Andrew Lansbury, Chaz Servais, Lucas Glover, Emiliano Grillo. 205, Nate Hardy, Cam Champ, Vincent Whaler, Tyler Duncan, C.T. Pond, Russell Knox. 216, Hayden Buckley, Charlie Hoffman, Trey Merritt, Kelly Craft, Andrew Long, Zach Blair. 227, Justin Lauer, Kramer Hickok, Sam Ryder, Robbie Shellen, Taylor Pentrith, Dylan Lingmerth. 238, Michael Glidgick, Brent Grant, Kyle Westmoreland, Trevor Cohn, Estelonzo Goya. 249, Andrew Nunez, or Augusto Nunez, Scott Harrington, Ludwig Aberg, Chase Johnson, and then nobody of note in the 3 o'clock window. All right, I have a pick of 9. This is somebody that played well in this tournament last year. Granted, it was at a different golf course. I think that there's a possibility that we see longer odds with this player. And it looks like we do have long odds with this guy. He's 90-1 on the board. And I think he's due to break through. I'm going to go with Sam Ryder. And I'm only going to lay 1/10 of a unit on it. Okay, now we're going to preview and talk about last week's episode of Survivor. I should say preview tonight's episode. Alright, so it was an interesting episode. It starts off with the Reba tribe, and Sifu wants to know where the vote came from. And Dee told him that she did not vote for him, even though she did, so she lied. And then Jay confessed to it just to put it behind the tribe. And then Dee and Julie debated siding with Sifu or Jay for the future. And then over at Lulu, Bruce's bossiness wore on the tribe mate's nerves. And then at Balo, Drew was unreceptive to an attempt to align by Brando. And then immunity and reward challenge. 1 player at a time, 3 people from each tribe raced through an obstacle course to find 3 keys. Another tribe member used one of the keys to unlock a long hook, which they released the sandbags, and then each tribe had to use the sandbags and a slingshot to knock down 3 targets. And then the first tribe to finish won immunity and spreads of fresh fish, while the losing tribe had to forfeit their flint. And then the first winning tribe also got to pick 3 people, 1 from each tribe, to go on a journey. Reba won, and then Lulu was the runner-up. The ones selected for the journey were Jay, Kelly, and Austin, where they had to come to a majority decision on sandwiches or an amulet advantage that would increase power. The fever of them holding it remained in the game. Austin tried but was not successful to sway the women into the sandwiches, and the advantage gave the group 1 extra vote. And then back at the camp, Brando offered a shot in the dark to Drew so that they could vote out Kendra, but Drew refused. And then the resulting, he said that he made Emily unsure of which side to trust. And then at Tribal, Austin used the goodwill advantage to sacrifice 1 vote to send his idol's power, then gain his vote back. And then Emily stuck with Austin and Drew, and they blindsided Brando, and that caught Kendra by surprise. So there's going to be some drama in that tribe, and Kendra is now at the bottom, which is not good, because that was my pick to win the competition. So, best moment of the episode. You guys know I love the unexpected blindside. Not 1 inkling was there of Brando being voted off. Except last week on the podcast, I called Brando getting voted off. Or 2 weeks ago when I recapped the episode from 2 weeks ago. Worst moment of the episode. I'm going to say the worst moment. I really didn't like seeing Brandon faint. That wasn't ideal. Best move of the episode, the blind side of Brando, obviously, was the best move. The worst move of the episode, to me, has to be D lying to Sifu. Not ideal. I know you have to lie in the game, but that lie is going to come back to haunt her at some point. All lies come back to haunt you in the game of Survivor. So my winner pick, I'm still going to pick Kendra. And from what I know, that I think the merge starts this week. But it could be the episode where they break up into two teams, and then the one team goes to tribal and the other team's safe, but the other team gets to vote out somebody as well. So we've had 5 people go home. So we're really one episode away from the merge. It looks like the merge does start this week. But I do think there's a possibility of 2 going home, but I doubt because there's 13. But usually there's 12. It's usually 12. So, I gotta be honest. I think the next to go home is D. I think that lie with Sifu is going to come back to bite her. And I could see a world where she's voted out. But if it's not D, I could see it being Bruce, but this could be the Bruce episode, but I think Bruce survives another week. And I'm going to say D goes home, and the lie to Sifu is going to come back to bite her. And I think Kendra survives another week, and I'm sticking with her for my winner pick, but I'm thinking about somebody else for my winner pick that's been a really good player so far this season, but I'm not going to give it away unless if Kendra gets voted off tomorrow night, or tonight, I should say. So looking forward to tonight's episode for sure. Okay, the college football playoff rankings came out last night, so I want to go over with them with you. The number 1 team in the rankings is the Ohio State Buckeyes. So the reason why they're number 1 is because they feel they had the best win at Notre Dame. So that makes sense. But they also beat Penn State, which is a good win. They still have to play Michigan. So I understand why they're number 1. Number 2 is Georgia. Notable wins, Kentucky. They have Missouri coming up, and that's another team that's ranked. And I think they're getting some benefit of the doubt for being the 2-time champ. But I do think Ohio State has a better win than Georgia does at this point. Number 3 is Michigan Wolverines. I think part of the reason why they're not in the top 2 is because of the whole cheating scandal, and I think that could come back to bite them. Notable wins, Minnesota. That's really the only one I can come up with. They really kicked their ass. They beat Rutgers. They beat Michigan State. They kicked their ass, but Michigan's peaking right now, but I don't trust them long term. I think the cheating stuff could haunt them. Force Florida State, they're 8-0. They have some nice wins at Clemson, but that's not as good as a win as you would have thought it would have been. The LSU win looks good. 5's Washington. They have the win over Oregon. But they haven't really looked impressive the last couple weeks. They almost lost to one of the Arizona schools. 6 is Oregon. They're the best one-loss team in the country. They had the best loss at Washington. 7's Texas. They have the Alabama win. They have one of the best wins anybody has. So that's why they're 7. Alabama's 8. They need to be beneath Texas. But Oklahoma's 9. They beat Texas. So I would have went Oregon, Oklahoma, Texas, Bama if you're going strictly by win-loss thing. 10's Ole Miss. Their loss is to Alabama. They beat LSU. 11's Penn State. They should be higher than this. Their one loss came against Ohio State. But I think their resumes hurt them a little bit. If they beat Michigan, that changes a lot. 12's Missouri. Their lone loss came against LSU, which is reasonable. Yeah. And then they have the win over Kansas State, which doesn't look good right now. And they still have Georgia coming up and Tennessee coming up, but I wouldn't be shocked if Missouri is in the 20s next week or the following week. 13's Louisville. They have the Notre Dame win, which is really good. Their lone loss was the Pitt, and which is the most college football loss all season that we've had. LSU's 14. Are they the best 2-loss team in the country? I would say yes, losing to Florida State and Ole Miss. They do have Alabama coming up, which could drop them or improve them in the rankings. That's a big one. Notre Dame's 15. They have 2 losses, one to Ohio State at the buzzer pretty much, and the other one was to Louisville. And then they do have the Duke win, and they have the USC win to hold their cap on. Oregon State is 16. They have 2 losses. They lost to Arizona this past weekend by a field goal, and then they lost to Wazoo about a month ago. But that loss doesn't look good anymore. Wazoo's falling apart. 17's Tennessee. They're 6-2. They lost to Bama, reasonable, and then they lost to Florida in week 3. But they do have a win over a Texas A&M team I feel is a little overrated. 18's Utah. Utah's going to be out of these rankings soon. I'm telling you that right now. They lost to Oregon. They beat USC, which is a good win. They lost to Oregon State, but they have a lot of quarterback problems. They beat UCLA. They have good resume wins, but not impressed. UCLA's 19. They're also 6-2. They lost to Oregon State. They lost to Utah. They beat Wazoo, but Wazoo's not that good, as we know. But they have SC coming up. SC's 20. They're 7-2. They barely beat Cal. They lost at home to Utah. They got killed by Notre Dame. That was a bad game for Caleb. But they can finish 7-5. Their next 3 games: home Washington, at Oregon, home UCLA. That could be 7-5. Look out. 21's Kansas. They have the big win over Oklahoma. They lost to Oklahoma State, and they lost to Texas. Losing to Texas is fine. Oklahoma State's 22. Good on Oklahoma State for getting in the rankings. They've turned it around after they're looked upon as a dumpster fire. They haven't lost in over a month. They beat Kansas, which was a good win. And then they have Bedlam coming up on Saturday. See what happens there. Kansas State's 23. So good on Kansas State for kind of riding the ship a little bit. They did lose Oklahoma State, which is fine. And their loss was to Missouri. They have a game at Texas coming up. That's a big one. And then they're at Kansas in a couple of weeks as well. So look out for that. 24 is Tulane. They're 7-1. Their lone loss was to Ole Miss in week 2, which is fine. That's a good win for Ole Miss looking back. But they don't really have the wins to justify themselves. And then 25 is Air Force. They're 8-0. They're really good. They beat Wyoming. That's probably their best win. But UNLV's pretty good. So we'll see about that. So that's your college football playoff rankings. My only issue is that I think that Oklahoma should be ahead of Texas if you're really serious about head-to-head. To me, they just did that because they want to give Alabama some favoritism as well as Texas. But Texas lost Oklahoma, so Oklahoma should be ahead of Texas. That's my point. Oregon's the best one-loss team for sure right now. And I really wouldn't be against LSU being ahead of Louisville. And it's just weird that Tennessee's right smack in the middle with all the Pac-12 teams right there. All right, on to the news and notes for today. A story that broke at 1 o'clock in the morning last night, slightly after 1 o'clock in the morning. The Raiders fire Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. This kind of came out of nowhere in terms of the timing, right after the trade deadline. Mark Davis, maybe he wanted to sell the deadline and they didn't. And McDaniels is just an awful coach. Like, I said that when they hired him. He was a product of Tom Brady. And to me, Josh McDaniels is better as an offensive coordinator. And Mark Davis and Dave Ziegler probably didn't think that at the time, but now Mark Davis realizes that now the Raiders are cleaning house, and that's a mess. That's an absolute disaster. But then again, if there was a time to fire the coach, it'd be now against a team that might be starting Tommy DeVito for crying out loud on Sunday. But it looks like Daniel Jones might be back for that game, actually. But it's just surprising from a timing standpoint, but not surprising just in general. And that could be a destination for Jim Harbaugh or Lincoln Riley. So keep an eye out for that. Oh, my God. And then just comes and the intern coach, by the way, Antonio Pierce. My goodness, that's going to be this year's Jeff Saturday. Just a random player that becomes a head coach out of nowhere. But at least Antonio Pierce was a linebackers coach for the Raiders. Like, Jeff Saturday was working on ESPN, and then Jim Irsay's like, hey, buddy, coach the team for a half season. So, yeah, that's this year's Jeff Saturday. I'm calling that right now. So, trade deadline. So, the biggest move was Chase Young gets traded to the 49ers for a third-round pick. That's a steal for the 49ers. I cannot believe that that's all they gave up. Good on the 49ers. They're really going for it. They realized, we lost 3 straight. We need to shake things up. And they almost pulled off a deal for Adoree Jackson, but they didn't get it in time. So that's not great if you're Joe Shane or John Lynch. So both those guys deserve some blame with that, but I don't think they needed a Dory Jackson, really. It would have been a nice ad, for sure, but, I mean, they really didn't need Chase Young. It was just the price. But I wonder what the price would have been for a Dory. But great trade for the 49ers. I don't like it for the Commanders, but what I do like for the Commanders was them trading Montez Sweat to Chicago for a second-round pick. How do you get more back for Montez Sweat than Chase Young? What were the Bears thinking on that one? Yikes. That to me was the worst. That reminded me of when Dave Gettleman acquired Leonard Williams from the Jets in 2019. You're bad. Like, come on, why? But good on the Commanders for taking advantage, but I hate it for the Bears. That could cost them the number 1 pick in the draft. They're really relying on Carolina to have the worst record. And then Commanders ownership had strong hand in Chase Young and Montez Sweat deals. I mean, good job on one, bad job on the other. You could have got more for Chase Young. And then the Commanders wanted a day 2 pick for Jacoby Brissett. That's high. Come on. I would have given up a 4th or a 5th for him, but day 2, please. Like, day 2 pick is not Jacoby Brissett. Day 2 pick is probably someone a little bit better than that. But, like, to me, day 2 pick is like Gardner Minshew. Or Tyrod Taylor's day 3 pick. But speaking of quarterbacks, the Vikings acquired Josh Dobbs after Kirk Cousins' injury. So they trade for the backup for the Cardinals. So the case for Josh Dobbs in Minnesota is that he has Jordan Addison and he has Justin Jefferson and he has TJ Hawkinson. Although they did trade Ezra Cleveland today and got a 5th-round pick in return from Jacksonville, which I don't hate that trade for Jacksonville. Giving up a 5th or a 6th for Ezra Cleveland's actually pretty good. And then Minnesota did both buying and selling. And then the Vikings did not trade Danielle Hunter, which I'm okay with. But yeah, the case for Josh Dobbs is that he has the weapons, but the offensive line's weaker without Ezra Cleveland. But that's the case for Josh Dobbs. He has better weapons in Minnesota than he did in Arizona. And then Jalen Johnson stayed put despite the trade request. And 49ers, Eagles, Steelers, and Bills were eyeing him. Ezekiel Elliott was getting trade buzz. Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton staying with the Broncos. Not surprising. And then how about this? The Browns trade Donovan Peoples-Jones to the Lions for a 2025 6th-round pick. I don't hate it for the Lions. Not at all. Kenny Pickett will be back on Thursday against the Titans. It says he'll be playing. That's good for Pittsburgh. I think they would have beaten the Jaguars last week had he not got injured. That's just me, but I could have been wrong there. The Giants are citing Tommy DeVito to the active roster. Hopefully it's just a backup at this point, because I feel like if it was Tyrod or Daniel Jones against the Jets, the Giants win that game, despite the coaching malpractice by Brian Daboll and the incompetence. Some baseball news. Adolis Garcia and Max Scherzer off the World Series rosters with oblique injuries. Let's see if it's actually going to matter, because they're a win away. And it didn't matter last night. But I think the loss of Garcia will hurt more potentially than the loss of Scherzer, only because of how good Garcia's been in the playoffs. So the Padres widened their managerial search, Phil Nevin and Benji Gill among new candidates. Eric Chavez out of the running. I would have liked to see Eric Chavez get a chance. I like that route of hiring former players from earlier in early last decade. Like Skip Shoemaker might win the National League Manager of the Year. So some college football. Deion wants players reimbursed, as he wants the Rose Bowl to pay back his players for what was stolen during Colorado's game against UCLA. There was a Michigan staffer on Central Michigan's sideline, and Central Michigan's investigating whether Connor Stallions was on their sideline against Michigan State. Oof, this is getting ugly. So Jacob Wilkins, who's the son of Dominique Wilkins, is going to his father's alma mater instead of Virginia. So he's going to Georgia, so that's pretty cool. Good on Georgia and Mike White for landing that player. So James Harden declined a trade bonus as he agreed to void his 5.1 bonus to make the deal work. No penalty expected for the Sixers as the NBA concludes investigation into potential violation of new player participation policy. Devin Booker and Bradley Beal have no real timetable for their return from injuries. If they had one of those guys tonight, last night they beat the Spurs. The Spurs, although had no business winning that game of how that game finished last night. So Anthony Simons has thumb surgery, expected to return in 6 weeks. Not great for Portland. Jimmy Butler is dealing with a knee injury as a right knee tendonitis is not considered to be serious. Not great for Miami. And then Charlie McAvoy suspended for 4 games for illegal check to the head on Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Not surprised. And their opponents are going to take advantage of this, and Boston might drop a couple games. Alrighty. Soccer. We forgot to do soccer, so we'll do that very quickly. We'll go over everything and then look ahead. All right. The friendly Canada over Brazil 2-0. Carabao Cup, Borough over Exeter 3-2, and Port Vale over Mansfield 1-0. We have no time for picks, so we're just going to go over the slate. So 3:30 West Ham Arsenal, 3:45 Ipswich Fulham, Bournemouth Liverpool, Chelsea Blackburn, Everton Burnley, and 4:15 Man United Newcastle. And that's the 4th round. The DFB Pokal. Wolfsburg over RB Leipzig 1-0. Stuttgart over Union Berlin 1-0. Hamburg over Greuther Fürth 2-1. St. Pauli over Schalke 2-1. Dusseldorf over Unterhaching 6-3 in additional extra time. Kaisers Luton over Cologne 3-2. Battlefield Hamburg 1-1 draw, but Hamburg advances 5-3 on penalties. Gladbach over Heidenheim 3-1. And then today's slate, 1 o'clock, Dortmund Hoffenheim, Sandhausen Leverkusen, Freiburg Paderborn, Holstein Kiel Magdeburg, 3:45, Nuremberg Hansa Rostock, Saarbrücken Bayern, Hertha Mainz, and Victoria Köln and Frankfurt. Copa del Rey. Levante over CD Vera 3-0. Espanyol over Minchero 2-0. Castellón over Casareno 3-2 in additional extra time. Almeria over Talavera 2-0. Las Palmas over Monacor 3-0. And Eibar over Lorca 4-0. Copa del Rey is loaded tomorrow, so bear with me. Or today, I should say. All right, so getting underway right now, Naxara and Melilla, Athletic Luguanas and Rayo, Badalona Cadiz, Roque de Lepe, Girona, Navarcano, AD Alcaron, Santa Eulalia and Valladolid, Compostela and Tenerife, UCAM, Murcia and Linares, Leonese and Leganes, Barbastro and Ponferradina, Ozaga and FC Cartagena. 10:30 you have Turriano, Celta Vigo, Quintana and Sevilla, Antonino, Lugo, Atletico, Aston, FC Andorra, Yugas Tirel, Real Aviles, and Torino at 11:30. Real Jane CF and Eldenese at noon. Usaria Keon, Cafadanga, and Deportivo. Guigelo Sporting at 12:30, as well as Samora CF and Racing. Ardina, Murcia, Machengo, and Antica CF. 1 o'clock you have Barcaldo, Malaga, CD Tolino, and Orhuela and Gymnastic, Unica Club and Salamanca, Europa Elche, and over in 1 o'clock, Utibo Mirandes, Terrassa El Bacte, Yolano, and Athletic San Luquino. 1:30, CD Bordeaux Mallorca, Benul Real Sociedad, Ternita and Getafe. 2 o'clock, Angulas and Huesca, and Drox and Tarazona, Marbella Racing Ferro. 3 o'clock, Marnesa and Real Oviedo. 3:30, Hernan Cortez and Betis. And 4:30, Ruby and Athletic. And then Coppa Italia. Second round results are Cremonese over Cittadella 2-1 in additional extra time. Salernitana over Sampdoria 4-0 and Bologna over Verona 2-0. And then today, 10 o'clock, Genoa and Reggiana. 1 o'clock, Lecce and Parma. 4 o'clock, Udinese and Cagliari. Alrighty, so there you have it for the soccer. Last but not least, my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. There's a couple I have in consideration for this, but one jumped out at me big time. It's just easy to just go against the Wizards, right? I'm doing it again. I'm going to lay 7.5 for the Hawks. And if the Hawks don't come through, then they're not that good. So I'm going to lay the 7.5 at Atlanta against the Wizards. This is more of a play against the Wizards than it is on the Hawks. But just taking a flyer on Atlanta to win this game by double digits pretty much. So again, Hawks minus 7.5 and minus 110 against the Wiz for best bet. All right, that's it for the show today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything and look at everything tomorrow. We have Thursday Night Football tomorrow as well. I hope you guys have a great day, everybody.